Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience, and thank you for being here tonight. And tonight's webinar is 3 secrets to speed up your metabolism without the use of cardio or stimulants, through food alone, which is a bold, lofty claim to make, but we're going to tackle it head on tonight. So let's get going here. So there are three pathways to speed up your metabolism through eating alone. And if you use these pathways, if you use these 3 areas, these 3 things, these 3 key points, then you will tap into potential that you would never believe you've had, and it will blow your mind. So the first one is eating thermogenic food, and we're going to totally go over that in the upcoming slides. The next one is, well, it didn't want to stick around for me. It's strategically spiked leptin levels, and we'll get that corrected in a minute here. Strategically spiked leptin levels. And thirdly is the amplified thermogenic process of digestion. And something else I want to touch on tonight is a huge mistake that young girls, and when I say young girls, I mean 20-something girls, 24, 26, 27, not necessarily late 20s, but it's more the early to mid-20s girls. And what they'll do is, they'll want to do a show. They'll want to do a figure show, bikini show, and they'll want to do one after they read a fitness rag on the newsstand, or they look at their friend's Facebook page who did a show, and they don't have any idea what it's going to take to do it. And I'm going to talk about mistakes that they make, and I'll explain to you guys why that's important. And I'm not picking on them, but it's a huge pitfall that I've seen people that have been on board with me make. And if you identify something in advance, you can oftentimes prevent it from happening. So hopefully that'll pay off tonight. So let's keep going here. So now this young girl right here is actually, and before we talk about everything else, I put her photos here intentionally. She's one of those girls that was 26 last year when she signed up. I think she's actually 28, or she'll be 28 this year. But she was only 26 when she signed up at the start of last year. And she almost made a few of those mistakes, but I got her back on course, and oh man, and she actually sent these images in recently. So the first step is we want people to drop boot camps, spinning classes, treadmill, Stairmaster, elliptical, walks, runs. Well, why do we want people to drop those? Well, why is that? And I know you're asking that question. I'll tell you why. The reason we want to take all that out is because we want food to do its work. Let food do its work. I'm not saying don't ever exercise again. I'm not saying you can't do some periodized, structured exercise. In fact, you obviously should. But not this type of exercise. And certainly not when you're just starting in eating correctly and trying to implement these key points. Does that make sense? In order to implement these key points that I just went over and I'm going to continue to go over tonight, you got to give them a chance to work. Oftentimes, and I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to repeat this again tonight. This is coming from somebody being me, that makes a living, that earns money, earns a living, makes money, earns money off developing customized nutrition programs. And I will tell you right now, nutrition is not 90% nutrition. It's about 50%. Well, what do you mean? Here's why I say that. Because you can destroy a good, effective, smart nutrition program if you or with a bad training program. Let me say it this way. You can out-train, you can out-exercise a good nutrition program. By that I mean you can destroy, you can ruin a smart, effective, balanced nutrition program if you're doing like spinning classes every morning, then weight training, then Stairmaster again, and you just kill yourself. So a lot of people don't realize that. And you know what? 90% That's 90% of people that sign up with me are like that. The other 10%, they're just couch potatoes. They're detrained. This is a severe problem. So we want to wipe all this boot camps, get rid of them, spinning classes, treadmill, get them out of here, and just focus on the foods so these different key points can work. Let's keep rolling here. Okay, drop body part splits. Shoulder days, ab days, hamstring days. I mean, you got women that are 26% body fat, which isn't that bad, but it's not good, or women that are 32% body fat doing tricep days. Are you kidding me? You got people that can't even do a chin-up doing bicep days. What? Look. When you train, and this is our next bullet point here, when you train, well, I already went over this. Let me keep going. But when you train the total body, or at worst, half the body. What do you mean by half the body? Just the upper body or just the lower body? Or total body is obviously, a full body training session. You generate more energy turnover. You burn more fuel. You create more metabolic disturbance. You speed up your metabolism. Okay? So, when you do that, combined with those three key bullet points I've gone over, and we'll go over even more in a minute, to speed up your metabolism through food, it works together synergistically. It works together synergistically. That's what it does. Does that make sense? So let's keep rolling with this. And I don't think at first, when someone starts out trying to utilize these three key points, you don't need more than 3 weightlifting days a week. So more than 3 is too much. And more than 2 cardio days is really too much too. Guys, 5 exercise days a week is plenty. 5 times a week is plenty. You don't need more than that. In order to give these 3 key points to work, in order for food to do its job to burn your metabolism and to speed it up, it's key that you do the minimum effective dosage of exercise. So let's keep rolling here. Now, no stimulants. And I put Alyssa's photo here, and this photo was taken, I want to say at the 6 month mark. So she'd been with me for 6 months on the program. The time spent between these 2 photos is 6 months, is what I'm trying to say. So it's an awesome photo here, and this is not unrealistic. If I had to guess, I'd say she's probably 20, maybe 20% body, maybe 19% body fat here, 19-20, which is it's very good for a female. It's on the lower end of average. It's very sustainable, and she has a sustainable body fat here. She's not going to crash. She's not going to bend. She's not going to blow up and have a yo-yo. This is sustainable. What I mean is she can stay like this, and she can even continue to make incremental improvements. And we're going to post a photo of her at the end of August to show those. My point is that this is something that can be done for the rest of her life. This is not something that is going to cause a rebound effect that 99% of diets cause. But I put her photo here intentionally because she didn't use stimulants. In fact, she got off coffee, no fat burner pills, just tons of food, and a little bit of exercise. Now, we increased her exercise as time went by, but you want to drop all drugs. And by drugs, I don't mean necessarily a drug prescribed by your physician if you're sick or you have a disease. That's not what we're talking about, and you guys probably know that. But what I'm referring to here are steroids, or something like clenbuterol, or something like human growth hormone, stuff like that that can aid in fat loss and muscular development, but is not necessarily necessary. Thermogenics, all thermogenics means is anything that stimulates your metabolism or your nervous system rather. Fat burner pills, energy drinks, 8-hour energy shots. What are those things called? You guys know what I'm talking about. Energy drinks are everywhere, so get rid of those. Well, why? Why is coffee bad? Well, that's a whole different webinar. Like coffee isn't necessarily bad, it's the caffeine. And caffeine, if managed properly, can be okay. But it shouldn't be a crutch for you to get through the day. If If you can't avoid your afternoon siesta without a cup of coffee, then you're in a bad place. And something else I wanted to mention is that by leaving out the thermogenics and the stimulants, you're giving food a chance to work. Same thing with exercise, guys. You get rid of the stimulants, you get rid of the exercise, not get rid of it, but reduce the exercise, and you're giving a chance for food to do its job. Okay, we're going to get to that in a minute. So you never want to rely on the nervous system stimulation as a means to speed up your metabolism. You take a caffeine pill, a fat burner pill, they're all over the place. Your heart will start racing. You'll sweat, you'll get jittery. I mean, your alertness will increase, but it's speeding up your metabolism, but through a different pathway. What's next here? And like I said, it's a feast or famine mentality, and it turns out to be a lack of balance, which is the opposite of what Alyssa did here. Alyssa, she's balanced here. She's the opposite of this. So feast or famine, what that means is that you either have to take stimulants to exercise, your fat burner pill, energy drink, and if you don't have them, then you just don't exercise. And there's people like that literally can't, they're all or nothing. You've heard the expression feast or famine, all or nothing, meaning that they'll go 100 miles an hour with the energy drinks and fat burner pills, but you take them away, take their coffee away, and they're a slug. They literally can't function. So that's a horrible place to be. And it boils down to it's unsustainable to live like that. Well, once again, when you remove stimulants, you reduce your exercise, and you use food for what it's good for, and you use food effectively and correctly, you have what? What is this? What's the opposite of this? The opposite would be unsustainable, and this is sustainable. Some people quit after their first month. They're just not able to do it. They're not emotionally. Well, this is someone here that was able to. And like I said, this is sustainable for the long haul. Let's keep rolling. Now, the first bullet point was eating thermogenic foods. Okay? Now, my two favorite ones are grapefruit and celery. And celery is actually what you would call a negative calorie food. By that, what I mean is that it actually takes more energy. Your body burns more calories digesting celery than there are calories in celery, because it's so fibrous and it just requires that much heat and energy and work from your digestive system. So a good working definition is simply a food that can slightly increase your metabolism when used effectively. That's the key here. Grapefruit are excellent first thing in the morning, into the day, or between meals. If you eat a gut buster meal, even if it's healthy food, if you're just stuffed and you have a grapefruit, the grapefruit isn't really going to do a whole lot. Grapefruits are good because they provide satiety. They don't necessarily have a whole lot of fiber, but they provide satiety, and they will satisfy a sweet tooth craving. I can't really explain it, but when I got down to 4% body fat years ago for a photo shoot, I would eat grapefruits basically in between almost every meal, and it's just something about them that does that. So these are probably my two favorite thermogenic foods. Some other good examples: celery, grapefruit, onions, berries, spinach, bell pepper, cucumber, and there's others. And now let's talk about strategically spiked leptin levels, because a lot of people just don't understand, what is leptin and what does that mean anyway. Well, let's talk about that. Okay, leptin is a hormone that regulates hunger. And now leptin will flourish when conditions are normal, and under normal conditions in the body, but will drop fast when calories dip, and or body fat levels dip. So when does that happen? When do calories dip and body fat levels drop? Well, it happens when you're on a restrictive diet or some type of fat loss program. Okay, so if I want to be an outside the box thinker and be a critical thinker, then I want to be able to work around this. How do we work around this? Well, let's talk about it some more. Let's keep talking about leptin. Now, three things happen when leptin levels drop. Okay, number one, it decreases thyroid output. When thyroid production decreases, your metabolism slows down. Okay, you want a healthy thyroid output. We've heard of people that have hyperactive thyroid. Well, we don't want that, but we want healthy, balanced thyroid output. And when it drops, your metabolism drops. That's not good if you want to burn body fat the healthy way. Okay? Number 2, cortisol increases. And when cortisol levels increase, it results in increased body fat and can actually burn muscle tissue. Now, let me pause right here and explain the first 2. And I'll explain the third one here in a minute. The human body does not know the difference in following a restrictive fat loss or weight loss diet than if it's out in the wilderness stranded, or if it's out on a raft in the ocean, or if it's in the desert or in the jungle. Your body doesn't know the difference. Does that make sense? If you're doing the treadmill, the Stairmaster, spinning class, you're just gassed out and you're eating twigs and berries all day, try to lose 20 pounds. Or if you're, stranded in the jungle with no food, your body doesn't know the difference. You do, but your body doesn't. Both ways, you're overtrained, you're running around, you're pouring in sweat, you're hot, and you're not getting enough food in. Does that make sense? So when your body is in a wilderness survival situation, survival mechanisms kick in. Okay? And if your metabolism slows down, you don't burn as many calories. You don't have as high of an energy expenditure. And that is a good thing in a wilderness survival, stranded desert, raft in the middle of the ocean situation. Gaining fat and burning muscle is good in a life-threatening, life extension situation in the wilderness, because the more fat you have, your body can tap into that can burn through that for fuel. And the less muscle is metabolically active. Muscle actually requires more energy to function. So if you lose muscle and gain fat, yeah, of course it's bad aesthetically and cosmetically. And in a performance standpoint, it sucks. But it will help you live longer in a survival situation. Does that make sense? Seriously, type in, are you with me? And your body doesn't know the difference. If you're burning out on the treadmill, spinning classes, eating twigs and berries, or if you're on a raft, or if you're in the desert, stranded, having to hike through the wilderness. Okay, last one. The third thing that happens is, and I hope I don't butcher the name, ghrelin is a hormone secreted from the inside of the stomach, the walls of the stomach. And what that does is it stimulates the appetite. Well, why would you want to? Why in the world? How is that why would that go along with everything else? Well, I'll tell you. Because if you stimulate the appetite, what are you going to do? It's going to make your ass hungry. You're going to want to eat. Okay? And it's going to send a profound signal to the brain, go eat food. I'm hungry. I need food badly. Okay, so these are the 3 things that happens when leptin drops. So, in case you haven't figured it out yet, we don't want leptin to drop. We want to spike it strategically. It's going to drop a tiny bit at some point as you begin to successfully burn body fat. But we want to reduce it, and this is why the girl you saw the list in the previous photo is able to sustain her program for so long, because she had strategically spiked leptin levels. Now, you prevent this by strategically placing carbohydrates to spike your leptin levels, and you prevent that 50% drop in the first place. So, I'm not talking about an ice cream cone. I'm not talking about a slab of cheesecake. No, there's some, I hate to even call them trainers or coaches or experts, but there's people out there that actually think it's okay to eat a big hearty bowl of granola. Not once a year, once a week. Or ice cream sundaes with like cereal flakes on. There's people that tell their clients to do that. let me be very clear on this. There's no benefit at all to eating junk food over healthy food. Well, you're like, well, okay, well, what do I do? I'll tell you. A cup of oatmeal, an additional 8-ounce yam, an additional cup of brown rice, and black beans. You stick with a healthy carbohydrate source, but you just eat more. You don't need 4 cups of oatmeal, but you can double or at least 30% jump your carb intake at least one of the days of the week. Now everything else has to be in order too, but that's part of the program. But that's why you see those 2 girls, the back shot photo, and I'll scroll in the back if you guys want, and then Alyssa and the other one, where they actually built muscle and decreased body fat over the long haul. This is over a year. This is not a 3-month, 2-month quick hit. This is sustainable. Now, when you do this, you're not going to drop 20 pounds in 2 weeks or something ridiculous. You'll still be successful, but anytime you have a huge drop real fast, you regress and you bounce back. Now, the third key point was the amplified thermogenic process of digestion. Folks, people have no idea how profound and how powerful the energy burning, the thermogenic power of digestion. You're like, well, wait a minute, so if I eat more food, I burn more calories? Yes! If it's done correctly, absolutely. Think of your belly, your digestive system in here as a furnace. And what happens if you have a furnace and you put in more coal, or you put in more wood, or more logs? Well, does the furnace go out? No, it actually burns stronger, right? Now, you got to put the right fuel in the furnace, and you got to put the right amounts in. But if you put the right amounts in very frequently, it will burn strong and hot. Agree? I mean, are you guys with me on this? So that's what we want to do. Digestion is that's why you don't need all that cardio. You don't need caffeine, thermogenics, energy pills, energy drinks. You don't need that. Let food do its job. Okay? Secondly is the principle of volumetrics. And I've talked about that in a previous webinar, and I'm going to go way over it again tonight. So just sit tight. On the next slide, we're going to nail it. I'm sorry, that was the thermogenic, adding thermogenic foods. I don't know why it slid by. I'll have to fix that. Frequent meals. No, you don't need to eat 8 meals a day, but you might need to eat 5 to 6, and that's okay. That's okay. We want your blood sugar levels stable. We don't want 6 hours or even 5 hours to go, or even 4 to go by where you're not eating. Okay. Some people, because of work, I had 2 people. In fact, that little girl with the back before and after photo in the first slide, she had like 5 hours between her first and second meal due to work. So we had to just load up her first meal big time. But my point is, guys, is that she's still got her 6 meals in. So we want frequent meals. And number 5 is we don't want to suppress your appetite. We want you to have a big appetite. Now, I didn't say hunger. You shouldn't be starving all day. You shouldn't be hungry all day. You might experience hunger periodically during the day, 2 to 3 hours after you eat. That's okay. But hunger is different than appetite. We want a healthy appetite and have you ready to eat by each meal. Okay, this is big. The principle of volumetrics is your secret weapon. Now just pay attention here, and I'm going to go through this. This is our biggest slide. Volumetrics plays a tremendous role in speeding up your metabolism. And let's talk about this. So we're just going to sit here a minute. Let me say this. The harder your digestive system works, where's our next slide here? Well, it's not working with me. The harder your that's what I meant. The harder your digestive system works, the faster your metabolism will burn. Now, let's talk about this little picture down here. Okay? In the first picture, this represents a stomach, okay? In the first photo here, this is, every single one is 400 calories. But this is oil because it's calorie dense, high in fats. If it's, let's just say it's olive oil. This next one, it's chicken or fried chicken, whatever it is still not very much. Now the last one is totally full, but it's still 400 calories. But we filled up the stomach with the right amounts of the right foods, but the majority, 80% of the food, is leafy green, multicolored, cruciferous vegetables, fibrous carbohydrates. And what this does is, this requires your digestive system to work its ass off. What do you mean by, okay, let's talk about that. Guys, the digestive system starts, it doesn't start in the tummy. You know where it starts? In the mouth. The secretion of saliva as you chewing of the food, and then the secretion of saliva starts the digestive process. Then you swallow it, and the esophagus works, and the small intestine, large intestine, stomach, so on and so forth. They all work. But what are you going to chew more? Oil or all this stuff? All this fibrous, leafy green, cruciferous stuff? You don't even chew oil. You don't chew liquid. And this is why I'm not a big fan of all these shakes. You've heard of Shitology and Isogenics and Juice, what's it called? Juice Plus. I mean, there's all these. There's what's that other one called? Beach Bum. That sell these shakes, 3 shakes a day, 4 shakes a day, and they're horrible. And I did a webinar on that too recently. But what they do is, that's liquid. And liquid, whether it's olive oil or a protein shake, is not digested. It's absorbed. So when you don't digest it, you're not taking advantage of the profound effect of the digestive system. You're not even using the amplified thermogenic benefit of it. Do you see my point here? These knuckleheads that slurp down zillions of shakes a day and eat a Quest bar or a cereal bar 2 other times, and they wonder why they don't burn fat. This is why. Do you see where we're going with this? And if you eat something like this, it's still not helping you, but this is what we want. So now, you don't just want to eat vegetables. You still want the right mix of protein source and fat source, but the point of this illustration is to show you why it's important to eat all this and why it's important to have the right foods. And this is a great photo here because it's a great example of what would be an excellent volumetrics meal, but it's still got the healthy protein and fat sources, because wild salmon is a healthy source of fat. It's a quality protein source. You have some strawberries, raspberry, and I don't know what kind of greens they have in here, but this is overall, from what I can tell, a really good example. And if you can, guys, use Thermogenic Foods to maximize volumetrics. Throw some celery in, throw some cucumber, throw a little bit of diced up onion in, throw some bell peppers in. Tomatoes are great too. And you do all that, and you elicit a profound stimulus to the digestive system and receive a huge metabolic payoff from the digestive system. Now do you see how woefully effective a protein shake is over something like this? Same number of calories. In protein shake, it's still going to have protein, and you can even add fats to a protein shake. And you can still do that strategically a little bit. I'm not saying never do it. But what I am saying is 90% of the time, it's better for this. And I think you guys see that. Let's keep rolling. Now let me wrap it up here with this, is that, and this is the girl that was on the first slide with her back photo, before and after photo. Her name is Frances, and she was 26 in this photo here. And I'm pretty sure she was 27 here. Anyway, the point I'm making is she's the typical 20-something girl that wanted to do a show, but struggled some at first. And fortunately, even though she had a few pitfalls, she stayed on board, she got back on track, and I actually really went out of my way to help her. I definitely, went out of my way to help her, and the results paid off. I mean, phenomenal transformation. And the photo of her back photo you saw that's like a week old. So she's sustained it. She's not quite this lean, and she really doesn't need to be year round, but she's not far from it. She's probably a little bit leaner than this photo right now. The point is it's balanced. It's sustainable. Now, she actually, I think a minute ago I misspoke. I said she was the typical girl that represents. Well, she's actually not the typical girl. She works as a nurse, I believe, and so she works, a full day. I think she's at work at like 6 a.m. and 6 to 4 or 6 to 3:30, whatever it is. The point is it's tough hours, a full long day, and she's still got her workouts in, got her training sessions in to prep for a show. Now, here's the point I want to make. She did it, so I want to give credit to her. But a lot of girls, and I even had one in particular I can think of earlier this year that. And this other girl was in her early 20s, so Frances was a few years older than her. But the point I'm making is that you have young girls that get excited to do a show, bikini show, figure show, because their friends did one, or they saw it in a magazine, but they can't even go a week without happy hour. They can't even go a whole week by being in bed before 2 a.m. They can't even go a whole week without alcohol. They can't go a whole week. They can't even go a whole week on packing their meals for the day. Are you guys starting to see the problem with that? Are you starting to see the problem with that? That's a bad situation. Well, why are you discouraging people? Why are you being... No. This is not being mean or discouraging. I'm bringing to light. I'm holding the mirror up so you can peer into your own face and see the issues you might be facing. If you're a 21, 22, 24, 26, hell, maybe even 31-year-old woman or guy, but we're talking about women here, then there's not necessarily anything wrong with going out for drinks once a night. But you know what? If that's a extraordinarily important part of your daily and weekly routine, or weekly, wouldn't be daily, weekly routine, might be daily, hopefully it's not daily, then you're going to have a tremendous struggle packing your meals, doing your training sessions, doing what it takes. Forget getting up at 6 a.m. to do an exercise or 5 a.m. I mean, and here's the point. Let me plug this in. Here it is. They don't realize the physical and mental demands. The girlfriend did one, their buddy did one, they saw it in a magazine. Ooh, that's cool, that's sexy, that's trendy, that's whatever it is. Well, you don't realize the physical and mental demands. Second of all is they lack the self-discipline to prepare their meals and get to bed early. Guys, you know what's one of the toughest things for young girls that want to do these shows? It's preparing their meals, because that takes time. Guys, it takes a long time your first week. Most people say it takes 2 hours their first week to pack all their meals. Now, as you get in the swing of things, it might take less than an hour in the coming weeks and months. But the point I'm making is that that's a big step for a 22-year-old that's used to going out and partying or hitting the town 2 nights a week, or that's used to that's a poor time manager. And going to bed early, it is a major obstacle for 20-something girls to get to bed before, at a decent hour. You can't stay up till midnight and expect to burn fat effectively. I don't want to get too off topic, but your best sleep is before 11 a.m. Little Franny here, Frances, she would go to bed at 9 p.m. During her contest prep. When I was doing my photo shoot prep back in 2004, and I got down to like 4% body fat, I was in bed at basically 9:30, and I'd get up at, I think, 3:30 or 3:30, yeah, 3:30 some days. So the point I'm making is that that's a big deal, that you wouldn't think it is, but getting to bed early is a major roadblock. And a lot of these young girls, they just lack self-confidence. Now, little Franny here, she did not play college sports, so she was not necessarily a college athlete. I think she played some high school sports. But the point I'm making is that she still found the discipline. Another young lady that was on board earlier this year played collegiate volleyball, and I'm a former collegiate athlete myself. And as a collegiate athlete, it's like working two jobs. You have your practice, and you got your academics to do, your study hall, and usually college athletes are very competitive, or former collegiate athletes are very competitive, and they're usually good at taking on extra responsibility because you have to be a student athlete. Well, this woman wasn't at all. She was woefully lacking in self-confidence and in that area. So just because what I'm trying to say is just because you were an athlete, even in college or high school, doesn't mean you're going to be able to do a diet. Going to football practice or volleyball practice, there's no comparison. It doesn't require the same level of discipline. There's more mental toughness, I believe, and there's more physical toughness, but there's more mental toughness and discipline when it comes to diet adherence. So I think that's worth mentioning. I don't know if there's anybody that's in this mid-20s, young 20s demographic female, but I want to shed some light on this. But